This is Backstage Pass, and I'm Mike Shea. There's a great quote. Actually, wait a minute. Before I even get into that, if you hear a lot of noises from underneath this table, my bulldog Paulo is. I can't really go anywhere in the office without him following me because he thinks we're going to start playing. So I used to try and keep him out of the room when I do these intros, and he would just sit outside and bark. So now if I just bring him in, he just sits underneath the table and maybe plays with toys and squeaks, or he chews on his bones. So if you hear any weird noises, it's him. It's not me. There is a great quote from Anthony Bourdain that I really like, and this is the quote. "Travel changes you. As you move through this life and this world, you change things slightly. You leave marks behind, however small. And in return, life and travel leaves marks on you. Most of the time, those marks on your body or on your heart are beautiful." That's abridged, slightly abridged, but that's the basic context of it. And the reason why I bring that up is because this week's guest is basically rock's Lonely Planet guide, as I'm referring to him, and his name is Alex DeLeon. You probably remember him as being the singer for The Cab, or the guy with the beanie, because all of his photos had him in a beanie. Anyway, he's got a new project out called Bohnes, and it's spelled Bohnes, and Instagram account, I think, is that. His Twitter account's that way. And it's really, speaking of beautiful, the imagery that he uses in his videos and in his photographs now are beautiful. But the thing is, as I state in our interview, that he's traveling the whole world, I think, all the time. I don't think he has a job. I think he just travels, which is awesome, because the places that he's gone and the things he's seen have really affected him and really moved him. And we talked quite a bit about this. I know you probably remember The Cab, of course. They came out of Henderson, Nevada, formed around 2004. They handed out their demo at a Corporate Starship show to some of the guys from Panic at the Disco, who were also from that area. And they introduced Alex and the guys to Pete Wentz, who had started Decadence Records at that time. And then Pete fell in love with the band, and so Pete signed The Cab to his label, which had a deal with Fueled by Ramen / Atlantic Records. And they put out, and actually Brendan Urie and Patrick Stump both appeared on that first record called Whisper War, and it was released in April of 2008. My God, it's 10 years ago now. And they played the AP tour. You probably remember that Never Shout Never headliner that we did in 2010, the one that had Hey Monday and Every Avenue, and the Somerset was on it. And then the band just kind of blew up. They played Warped Tour, everything. And about 2011, though, things started to go sour with the label, and I think with management. They had the same management as Fall Out Boy. And I think after a while, the band kind of felt like they were kind of stuck in this machinery of the major label system, and things were not happening, and things weren't being released and so forth, and everybody's got a side of the story. But the band finally got off the label in 2011, and then they went and released, self-released actually, 2011's Symphony Soldier, which is an amazing record. It's been called a classic, and there's probably the biggest thing. If you go on Spotify, the biggest song they have on there is Angel with a Shotgun by far. And that song's amazing, but the record is amazing. It's one of my favorite records, I think, period. And then the band started kind of getting a little shaky. Alex's two other main guys. There's actually two other Alexes, Alex Marshall and Alex Johnson. They went through a couple bass players, but slowly but surely, that kind of band kind of started. People started going their separate ways, and Alex was kind of on his own for a while, and he produced a bunch of new material that kind of came and went, and he actually shared some of it. One of the songs became part of a Panic at the Disco song for Notorious. And but now he's kind of got this amazing project. He's in love, and we talked during our interview about traveling the world, kind of that adjustment phase after the Cab kind of went on pause or broke up, or however you want to say it, where he kind of had an identity crisis because he was known as this character called Singer, and he had to adjust himself out of that. And also, which he was actually all over LA. He met everybody in LA. He was always hanging out at basketball games and hanging out with celebrities and stuff like that. But then he just kind of got up and left and moved to Nashville. And he's got a place in Nashville with the love of his life, and I think a place in New York too. But anyway, so we spoke a few weeks back via Skype, which is why it sounds a little echoey sometimes. Gotta love technology. And he turns 29 on April 8th. This is Alex DeLeon.
Alex, hey, how are you?
How are you, man? It's so good to hear your voice and talk to you.
Or am I supposed to be calling you Bones? Which one am I?
I'm whoever you want me to be. I'm Alex, but I'm also
Okay.
Bones.
Where did that come up from?
I was in Paris and I was down underground in the catacombs and I was walking through, some of these hallways and all I could think about was like this overwhelming curiosity of like were these people men, women, children. Um, I mean, every single person in there, every pile of bones had a story. And
Hmm.
I was pretty, after the cab and after the band broke up and everything, I was pretty down. I was pretty depressed, and that's why I started traveling. I wanted to figure my life out. I wanted to kind of remember why I started. And when I was down there in the catacombs, I was thinking about how all of these bones had a story, and I was kind of asking myself, like, well, what the hell? What is my story? Like, where does my has my story ended? Is it just beginning? Am I in the middle of it? And I think right then I was just like, you know what? I want this project to be called Bones, and I want to make the most honest album possible that describes me and that shows every part of me, both the good and the bad, the light and the shadows, and yeah, and your bones are what's at your core. Everyone has bones, and it's kind of everything else in your body can slowly deteriorate and turn to shit, but your bones are always there.
I've been in those catacombs, and those really do make you. It's like it's all right. You kind of once you get through that, go, oh, this is so cool, and this is spooky, and and so forth. But it does make you kind of start to wonder a little bit, like, is this kind of where we all end up? Just kind of all, just one of many, one of millions.
Yep, exactly. I mean, you're looking at those bones, and I mean, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, if not millions, and you're like, man, I mean, these people lived and had lives, and now they just all are, resting together underground in this dark, cold, hallway. It's just pretty. It makes you want to live a little more than before you walked in.
So when you came out of there and you kind of started wondering where your place was and where you were going, what was your first step? What was the next step for you?
I just started writing. I started writing songs, and I wasn't thinking about, oh, usually when I was writing songs with the cab, it was very melody based. I'd always come up with the melody first over some guitar chords, and then I would kind of, piece together lyrics that fit with the melody. I think what was different on Bones, I was just writing. I was writing everything, every single thought that came into my head, whether it was about life and death, whether it was about family and friends and relationships. Like I was just always writing. And instead of putting lyrics to a melody, I was starting with the lyrics. And to me, Bones, the whole project is kind of based around the lyrics because the lyrics are based on my experiences. So just to give fans the most honest piece of work possible, I decided that I would, shake things up a bit and challenge myself to start with the words.
So if you were to kind of, for your cab fans, your longtime fans, if there was like a quick way to kind of compare and contrast your previous work, what would you say?
It still definitely sounds, like me. Like I think some of the cab songs that really resonated with fans were, like, for example, Angel with a Shotgun on Spotify and all the streaming services has about, it's almost 10 times more plays than all of the singles that we had at radio, which just goes to show me that song, which was a very lyric based song, is I think what really speaks to the fans. And I would say Bones is closer to, Angel with a Shotgun and Temporary Bliss and kind of the darker side of the cab. I have a pop voice, and there's no escaping the pop in my voice. But it's crazy because this project is more rock and roll and more rock band than my band was. It's pretty funny that I had to leave a band to go more rock and roll. It's the irony is insane. So yeah, I think, I can't wait to tour. I kept being on stage at the forefront of my mind while making the album as well. I just wanted to make songs that I knew would go off live, that I would have a blast singing and performing to, and that people in the crowd would also have a good time.
Your Instagram. I love your Instagram, and anybody who's listening to this, they should be following you, or they should start following you. But I don't know whether to admire you or hate you half the time, because and I've actually used you as examples, to tell you the truth, with other kind of younger musicians, and I say, watch what Alex DeLeon does, because you've become an amazing, at least from your Instagram, networker. Like, you've met so many people, and and the thing is that a lot of musicians, and a lot of people don't think this, a lot of musicians are kind of shy. Like, they don't like doing the networking. They feel like they're forcing it. They feel like they're trying to sell something. They should, they should just like me because who I am and my art and so forth. And so what's your, how did you learn to do this so well? I mean, you're hanging out in Costa Rica with Zac Efron, and you're buds with JT, and gosh, man, like, you're everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, I love people. I love hearing about people's lives and their stories, and yeah, I've just, my whole life I've always been interested in others more than myself, and I think that. All of these people are just people, and they have their own stories. And, I think my whole life, my parents raised me just to be nice to everyone, not because you're getting anything out of it, but just because it's, everyone should be nice to each other, obviously. You don't know what people are going through behind the scenes, what they're struggling with. And I guess I've just always enjoyed being around other people. And, I don't do well alone. It's hard for me to travel alone. It's hard for me to if I get too deep in my head, goes to some weird places. So I think just being around people and laughing and, experiencing moments, and making memories with people is, my favorite thing in the world to do. So any chance I get to do that, whether it's someone who's famous or whether it's, someone next door or someone I meet on the street. I mean, I've made some of my best friends in the world just starting a conversation up with people in a bar, or, out and about at a music festival and stuff, like just complete strangers, and they've become my best friends. So I don't know. I don't know if there's really a secret to it. I just love people.
Is there, especially from, starting out in the catacombs with this, and you're traveling the world, which we're going to get to, obviously, because it's really, you've told me a little bit about your plan with your music and this traveling, and it sounds absolutely brilliant. But what's been some, maybe, and especially you're getting older now from when you started with the cab and everything, and back in Henderson and that, and so what's been some of these kind of life lessons that you've learned over the past few years, as you've been kind of piecing this all together?
I mean, kind of going back to what we were just talking about, some of the life lessons, is that, the life lessons are, everyone, as I said, is going through something, and the more people you meet and the more places you see, and the further you get out of your comfort zone, the more you're going to not only learn about others, but you're going to learn about yourself. I've seen poverty to the extreme. I've seen wealth and luxury to the other extreme, and everything in the middle. And I've been to Antarctica, which is a place that is completely free of man. You don't see trash. You are seeing nature and the world as it was, millions and millions, hundreds of millions of years ago. So I just think the more that I see, the more that I learn, and the more the world humbles you, because you realize how big the world is. You realize how many people are out there You get to peer inside other people's lives, and you go, wow, like as much as I love making music, and as cool as it is, other people do some pretty damn cool things too. And I'm just grateful, to be in a world where there are so many different types of people and so many different types of places, and I feel like we can all learn from each other.
When you do travel the world, or you get to go out, even people that, even if you go and volunteer at a homeless shelter or something like that, some people feel like their careers or what they're doing in their daily life is kind of becomes insignificant, because like, what am I really doing to make a difference? And these people are suffering. And have you ever had anything like that anywhere?
Yeah. I mean,
kind of like,
well, what it does too is it makes things that you worry about feel so insignificant. We can get pissed off in everyday life about the stupidest things, about someone, you're driving around and someone cuts you off and it pisses you off, puts you in a bad mood, or like, these things are just so minimal when you see what other people are going through. And, there are plenty of times that I've, done my best to try to get informed on, what problems are really facing people. And my only regret is that I'm not more successful, because I would, have a bigger stage and a bigger audience, and I could contribute more. So I think, one of the first things I'll do if I ever do see, success on a larger scale would be to give back in any way that I could. And it's not only, people and wealth and stuff like that. It's also, me being around and seeing parts of the world, and me just seeing how global warming, for example, is affecting everything. And there are people in, some parts of America who maybe haven't even left their city or state, who they don't know what's going on because they don't see it with their own eyes. So they don't believe it. And
have you seen something? Have you seen anything that kind of regarding global warming? Have you seen the results?
Dude, I was in Antarctica, and it was like almost 60 degrees. Like that's not normal. that's not right. That shouldn't be happening. I was watching ice shelves break off and just crumble into the water, and the scientists telling me that this wasn't happening 20 years ago. Like, this isn't supposed to be happening. I was seeing iceberg after iceberg. We were taking this icebreaker boat, and we couldn't get through some of the straits because there were so many icebergs. And obviously icebergs happen naturally, but at the same time, he was saying there's so many and they're becoming so big because entire like miles and miles of shelves are breaking off, that it's completely changing the landscape down there. And I know it's at least Antarctica is a landmass. That's why it's a continent, because you go to Antarctica and there's rock and there's land. The Arctic doesn't have that. It's literally just an ice cap. So I haven't been to the Arctic, but I can only imagine it's 100 times worse, because that's just ice. Once that goes and raises the sea level, it goes. There's no coming back. There's no land underneath it. These animals, the environment, it's completely gone. So I think just seeing things with your own eyes makes everything a lot more real. You can't hide. You can't run from it if you're there. You know what I mean? You can push it to the side or slide it under the rug if you're home and you're living your life and you're busy. But when it's right in front of you, it's pretty hard to deny or make up excuses.
So you're living where now?
I have a place in New York City and a place in Nashville.
That's right. I thought you said you were hanging out in Nashville quite a bit. And have you been doing, like, what other things you've been doing up until now? You've been working on your music. Have you been doing, co-writing or anything else like that?
Yeah, I've written. I write for other people. I've written some country songs because for me it's fun. I wrote one of the last Panic at the Disco singles. So I kind of, I do a bunch of different things. Lately I've been putting so much into Bones. It really has been a 24-hour project. Even when I'm traveling, it's funny. All my friends make fun of me and they say I've turned into a travel blogger, but it's like,
well, you are. What did I call it? I called like you're Rock's Lonely Planet guy. Yeah. That's what you are. So.
Hey, I'll take it. But it's like fans, I could see fans getting pissed off. I'd get tweets here and there, and people are like, "Hey, why don't you start making music and stop, traveling and partying around the world?" And it's like people have no idea that I've been documenting every step, that I've been, writing songs. I actually said on Twitter one time, and it was probably the most honest thing I've ever said, is people asking me, "Well, why do you take so long on this album? It's been years. Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, you know what? Like, albums are hard to write because lives are hard to live. And I don't think that could be any truer. I could go and write 12 songs, this week, and I could put them out, right? But do those songs really represent me, who I am as a person, where I'm at in life? You have to dig deeper for that stuff. And I was in a pretty bad place after the cab, and I didn't know what I was doing with my life. And, I had to figure my shit out. And I was pretty depressed. And depression is kind of a weird thing, because a lot of times you don't know that you're depressed when you're in it. It just kind of becomes this warped reality that you live with every day. And it's really coming out of it where you look back and you go, oh my God, like that was a really strange place that I was just in. You know what I mean? And it's scary to think about. And so I think it was most important for me to figure out what made me happy. And that's not an easy question to answer all the time. So once I figured that out, and I started building this whole Bones universe in my head, and I remembered why I loved music. And being with the Cab, I mean, we had so many label issues, and we had management changes and lineup changes, and like that really, takes a toll on people. And the industry has its way of making you hate what you do sometimes as a musician. I mean, it's like you can pour everything you have into it, for someone at a desk to just say like, fuck you. I've had people, I've had labels tell me that if I didn't release a song that I didn't write, or a song that they wanted, they were going to shelf me and not let me release any music. I mean, it's crazy. It's like you're an artist, and you go to record labels in hopes that they believe in what you do and that they're just going to help push it, and find different outlets for you to get the music to the world. And it, obviously doesn't always end up like that. So I was very pissed off at music for a little bit of time, and I had to figure out, like I said, who I was as a man and as a person. And I took my guitar to Italy. I spent about 7 weeks in Rome, and I started writing songs, and I was like, oh my God, like I feel like I felt when I was in high school, coming up with the Cab and writing songs while the rest of my family slept. Like I would literally write songs all night. I played basketball, so all my other friends would like be drinking beers and would be like going out. And because I played basketball and was, trying to stay healthy, trying to get good grades, while all my friends went and partied, I was just writing songs and kind of honing in on my craft. And I would do it all night. And I would actually write songs until about 6 a.m. I would shower and go to school. So I wouldn't sleep. I would actually sleep after school. I'd get home from school, I'd take a nap. And I've always worked better at night because everyone's sleeping and there's not distractions. So I kind of had that feeling when I was in Rome again. I was like, man, I actually love writing songs. I love making people feel something. And, if one person can relate to something that I'm writing, then I believe that's success.
I call it walking depression, and it's like walking pneumonia, because the stereotype about depression is that you just kind of crawl in your bed and you don't get out, right? And you listen to Smith's records all the time and Morrissey. So, but for a lot of people, you're functioning. You're functional, it's functioning depression. And so, you could be walking around and just living life, but you have no idea that you're actually inside really sad.
Yeah.
Is that kind of what you were going through?
That's 100% what I was going through. And, not that I'm not going to.
I think I lost you.
You there?
All right, hold on. All right, start that over again. I lost you there for a second.
Oh.
Yep.
Not to put the blame on any specific city or person, but it really hit me when I was in Los Angeles. I mean, Los Angeles the cliche is very real. It's like a dream killer, soul-sucking city. There's a lot of amazing people and a lot of good creative people in Los Angeles, but there was something about the redundancy, and I felt like Bill Murray in Groundhog Day. It's like every day I woke up, it was a beautiful sunny day, everyone had smiles on, and maybe only 50% of the people actually were happy. It was just like such a weird. It's like walking in a shop of mannequins. I mean, it was House of Wax stuff. And it just drove me absolutely insane. And people were like, oh, you just got to give it time. You'll end up loving LA. And I just got out. I met a wonderful woman, and she lived in New York. And I just took that as a sign to get the hell out of Los Angeles. Hollywood was not for me.
A lot of people are moving to Los Angeles. I see a lot of it. It's Nashville or Los Angeles now is usually what I hear from people. But obviously, your relationship will take you to New York City. I totally understand that. But what do you like about New York City over LA? That may be a softball question, by the way.
What I love about New York City is people go to New York to kick ass. They don't go to New York to become famous. They go to New York to become better than you. And there's an ego to it, and there's a swagger that New York has because of that. And what I also love about New York is it is literally a melting pot of the world. I mean, you meet people from every corner of the planet that come to New York to kind of start over or to become the best at of their career field. So I found in New York, it's less about like people move to Los Angeles, and I am 100% guilty of this. And you go out and maybe you have a table because you know a promoter or you know the owner of the bar, and the table next to you, Miley Cyrus is partying, okay? Or I don't know, 50 Cent has a bottle and he's raging next to you, and you're like, man, like I used to watch these people on MTV when I was a kid, like 50 Cent, obviously Miley's younger, but I used to watch so and so on TV, and like now I'm at a freaking nightclub with him and I've made it. Like, this is what I've dreamed of, because people move to LA to become famous. And that is the complete opposite mindset of New York. I just find it's like people lower their head and they just they grind. And it's an F everyone else. It's kind of a me first attitude, but there's something to be said about it. It's kind of why I like the Nashville, New York, like dichotomy, because it's like I come to Nashville where people are super kind, and it's so slow paced and relaxing. I have my house is kind of in the woods, so I'm just surrounded by nature. But then I'm like, man, sometimes I just got to go to New York and get my ass kicked. And I go there, and New York chews me up and spits me out, and I come back to Nashville and pick up the pieces. Like, I don't know, something about it that just challenges me.
That's an interesting relationship you're having between those two cities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's kind of abusive, but yeah. All right. One of the things they always kind of say about, life changes and depression and being in a funk and whatever is some people say you just got to move. You just have to move. And if you get a whole new surroundings around you, it kicks you out of your whole, your kind of your gutter that you're in. Do you think that there's any sort of truth to any of that? It's like based upon location.
I think whether it's an actual literal 1 foot in front of the other, or whether it's, that's a metaphor for something. I mean, I feel like that definitely can be true. Obviously, everyone's case is different. Everyone is wired differently. But for me, it was just if I just stayed in the same house with the same room and the same memories and did the same thing, if I knew, well, on Sunday night, we're all going to jazz night in the lobby of the W, and then on Tuesday, everyone goes to this restaurant for dinner. It's like, if you do that, it's like, the whole definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. So for me, just getting out of my element and forcing different reactions from myself to because, you're getting thrown curveballs the more you travel and you're kind of forced to figure it out. And that to me just didn't necessarily clear everything up with a snap of the fingers, but it just made me look at everything from different angles that I wasn't used to. And when I saw things from different, vantage points, that's kind of when I pulled myself out of it. I saw some of the negatives as positives. I saw things that used to make me really happy and be like, wow, I actually don't care at all about those things. I don't know why those made me happy, or if I was actually happy. I just thought I was happy. And I think I just went and searched for positive energy, and kind of wherever that led me, I went with. People have a tendency to overthink everything, and I am the king of overthinking. And as soon as you just let go, I always say, my friend's like, man, you're so spontaneous. And I call it planned spontaneity. I give myself allotted time to be spontaneous. And that always
How do you mean?
So like, I'll give myself I'll be like, you know what? Okay, October, I'm not going to work, and I don't know what I'm doing yet, but October is going to be the month where I just go with my gut and, pull the trigger on anything that just makes me just kind of like a yes man attitude. Like, so when I went to Rome, as I told you, for like those 7 weeks, I met a guy in the bar. I'm with some friends, see some Fireball, and I order some Fireball because it was funny to me, because I'm like, man, we're in Rome and I have never seen Fireball in Europe, so this is hilarious. So we got to do one just America, And so this Italian guy's like, what the fuck are you drinking? And I'm like, okay, one more. So I asked the bartender for another one, and we just start talking, and we just became like, it was just something that I bought him a shot, and he goes, I'm coming to New York next week, and I would love if you to grab a drink, or if you want to show me around. So we go to this bar, and we get absolutely shit faced. And he goes, you're welcome in Rome anytime. He goes, 7 days, 7 weeks, 7 months, anything you want. I have a spare room. It's yours. I got on my phone at the bar and bought a plane ticket for 7 weeks to Rome. Didn't think twice about it. Was not going to let my sober self overthink it and say no and talk. You can talk yourself out of everything. And I just literally bought the ticket.
Right.
And 2 weeks later, I was in Rome. So I've kind of just, the songs come out better for me if I just do those things. If I just do what makes me happy, the songs are gonna be more real.
Lyrically, how do you think your new material is different than your past, because of the fact that you've been, living life?
It's no secret that a lot of the new stuff is kind of about life and death. I mean, it's not a concept album, but it very well could be. Everything kind of ties together. It's kind of from a mindset. And I think it just made me realize, I think just the realization of not being invincible kind of motivated every single song on the album. Literally, whether that's being with the person you love and being like, man, I love this person so much, and there's going to come a time where I don't get to be with her because I'm not going to be alive, or trying to think of what else. There's a song that's kind of about pity and how everyone always pities other people, and they think that everyone has this tendency to feel sorry for each other if their reality isn't what your reality. If you you could look at someone and go oh man, that sucks. That guy's a janitor, right? But maybe to him, maybe that's that he wants to be the best janitor in the damn world, and maybe that's something he wanted to do. It's you don't know, and we always make these assumptions that your reality is and your way of life is the best way of life. So there's a song about that. I think being in the catacombs and just traveling the world, it just made me realize man, time does go faster as you get older. And, there were guys in my band that I didn't talk to for years. And, after traveling and after figuring my stuff out, I reached out to them, and I hashed it out, because life is too short, to carry those things with you. And that's a lot of weight to bear on your shoulders. So, it's kind of just changed who I am as a person. And definitely as an artist.
Have you found like you've kind of moved on from some of the things in your past that you may have regretted?
Yeah, I don't definitely. And I think the ego of being young and invincible is always thinking you're right and thinking that the way you see things are the way, and I think that was a huge lesson that I learned is like, man, we're all going through, our different battles and our different wars. And I just think there's like a forgiveness and an understanding that comes with not only growing up, but just living life. The more people you meet, the more you understand. And I think that I've become a lot better at just understanding the people around me and just trying to show empathy. And I think that was something that maybe I struggled with when I was young because I had, the Cab started touring when I was like 17 years old. So I didn't have a chance to grow up I was literally thrusted into the tour life at 17 and pretty much was there until I was 23 or 24. So when the band ended, it was just a huge wake up call of like, wow, reality isn't waking up in a van or a bus every day and playing shows. Like there is a whole other world outside of the band scene. You know what I mean? And it was crazy because it was kind of all I knew. You're with the same people every day. You have your tour manager, you have your techs, you have the guys in your band, and like every single day you're living this life with the same people. So it's crazy coming out of that and not seeing those people anymore and not being comfortable. Like being uncomfortable was a very strange thing for me.
When the band ended, do you feel like your identity ended?
Um,
Were you kind of lost, like in that sort of sense for a while?
At the time, yes. Now looking back, I realize no. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. Like I remember the band ended, and I wore that damn beanie every day, right? Like that was my freaking look. I'd never take that. I slept in that thing, and I remember I shaved my head. I remember going to Target when like the band ended, and I just like bought this ghetto. I think it was like a beard trimmer, and I just like shaved my entire head, and like yeah, it's like
Wow.
I didn't know who I was. It's like I only knew myself as singer, and fans called me singer. The guys in my band called me singer. It's like that was my name, and I was like a cartoon character. I dressed the same every day with the beanie and the boots, and like so. Yeah, I mean, I think I was forced to kind of figure out who the hell I actually was. When I
Right.
wasn't under the lights and I wasn't singing to people, and it wasn't about being who everyone else wanted me to be anymore. It was about me being who I wanted myself to be.
And so many people have said, like, when are you touring? When are you going to do a live performance? When are you touring, et cetera, et cetera? And in that sense, I mean, did you kind of go through withdrawal as a singer after all that, and you kind of went into trying to find yourself? Did you kind of go through withdrawal of not being in front of an audience?
It wasn't the audience. It was, I missed. I still to this day, I really, really miss the fans. I mean, the best feeling I feel like a human can have in life is the realization that you can change people's lives for the better. And so hearing people come up to me and saying that, a song saved them, or, if a fan showed me a tattoo of words that I had written, like that stuff means the absolute world to me. And I am indebted and so thankful for every single person who's bought an album, who's come to a show, who's waited for me after the show to meet me. I mean, those people, they changed my life. They gave me the life that, I'd always hoped and dreamed of. And as an artist, all I can do is work my entire life to try to write songs and hopefully inspire them or give them something back. Even though it'll never be equal. What fans have done for me is more than I could ever do for them. But the part that really, I mean, I think the whole reason I started traveling was it was weird to be home. Like I came home, I remember going back to LA, and at first I was like, man, like I have no plans. I have like the next few months, I can do whatever I want. I remember being like 8 days into it, and I was so bored because I was in the same city, and I remember being like, man, like it's such a weird transition to be in a different city every day, meeting people, playing shows, going to sleep, waking up in a new city. I mean, there was always your senses were always being like fed. And when you're in the same city all the time, when you're used to not being in the same city all the time, it's very weird. So that's why I started traveling originally, because I got so bored and stir crazy, and the cabin fever was on level 100 that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna go to New York for 4 days, and I came back and I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to Hawaii. It's only 6 hour flight, and then I would just slowly started getting more curious, and the more places I saw, the more I wanted to see. And then when I moved to New York, and you're closer to the rest of the world, you're closer to Europe, closer to Africa, it was just like a game changer for me. I just started traveling because to this day I can't be home. I've been in Nashville for 3 weeks. I'm going nuts. I got to get the hell out of here.
Just on the fan thing, you travel the world, you've been everywhere. I want to talk about that next and how it ties into the new project. Where was the craziest place that a fan recognized you?
Let me think. I got recognized in Egypt, which was pretty crazy.
That's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome.
What happened there?
I was so in Egypt, like the hagglers in the markets, like they chase you down, they'll pull on your shirt, like there's no personal space. And I remember walking through this little market, like this outdoor market, and these guys kept following me, being like, tattoos, come in our shop. And I was getting pissed off because they kept touching me, and I was like, guys, come on, like let me walk. And I got poked on the back, and I turned around. I was like so pissed. I was ready to like lay into this guy. And I turn around, and it's like this like 14, 15-year-old girl who was like so shy and so sweet. And like she barely spoke English, and she had a picture on her phone of my album cover. And she like pointed to it and like asked for a picture. And I was just like, oh my God, like I'm in Egypt. And in Egypt,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and Egypt, like the economy is struggling, and she was kind of telling me, like it was pretty sad, but she was saying that she doesn't really have a lot to look forward to, or there's not much hope right now where she was living, and so she said that seeing me was just like it helped her get out of this little rut, and it's like that's what those fans never know, is that artists can also be in a rut, and having a fan come up to you like that and say those words can pull you out of the rut. And I think that's something that is so powerful, is that the relationship between an artist and a fan or a listener or supporter is like it 100% is like a symbiotic relationship. It is not a fan just getting from an artist. I mean, I have had one of the worst days of my life, and I had a fan come up to me and tell me to change my life, and it made everything better in a way, because it kind of pulled me out. And I've had fans say that I've saved their life, through words, and I'm like, fans have saved my life. I don't know what I would be doing if it wasn't for those people supporting me in the bad times and giving me words and making me feel like I contributed to the world and to mankind. It's, as an artist, it's just it's the biggest honor in the world just to affect someone.
I think it was Jake Lurs of August Burns Red. He wrote a blog post about Chester Bennington and everything that happened with him, and he wrote in there that a lot of time fans have no idea how lonely their idols are sometimes, and that those little moments where the right spot at the right time, a fan coming up and saying something really really nice to you can really make a huge difference in the mindset of an artist and where how they're feeling in their day, their month, or their year.
Yeah, truer words have not ever been spoken. I mean, that is dead on. I can't tell you how many times that's happened to me.
Do you so with Bones, and you've been traveling in that, but when you kind of described this to me a couple of weeks back, it's just brilliant. You really, your use of your time was very economical and practical, And so can you talk a little bit about, like, you really, everywhere you were going, you were shooting content for this. You had this new single out, 6 Feet Under, and it was shot in this abandoned amusement park. And that's the perfect example of how you used all this time to make, now you're going to have these amazing videos from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, that was, it's cool because the travel inspires the work, and then, the work inspires the travel. And I was traveling the world. And I'm like, okay, like I want to build, something that's true and that's honest to me. And I'm like, okay, who is Alex? Who is Bones? Right. And I'm like, I'm a traveler. I am someone who is very curious, and I would stumble across these places, and the more you travel, the more odd and out of the ordinary travel. Like, how do I put it? Like at first, when I first started traveling, it'd be like I'd go to London, right? And I would go to the London Eye, and I'd go see Big Ben. And then like once you start seeing big cities, it's like you go like, okay, I want to go to weirder places. I want to go to the places that no one else sees. So then it's like, I went down to Vietnam, and I lived in the biggest cave in the world that they just discovered for like a week. I lived in this cave, and like I just crave the experience. Like I crave experiences. I crave that. And I had a camera, and one of my best friends is a camera guy and a filmmaker. And I was like, I'm just gonna start documenting this because I don't want Bones to be represented by one city or one place. I mean, I want Bones to be able to inspire people worldwide, and to be like, hey, like I shot this in Japan, I shot this in Paris, I spent time in Italy, I shot some in Asia. I have one music video that I think I filmed on all 7 continents. I don't know if anyone's ever done that. I have.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I started, and then I started becoming fascinated with, you go to Dubai and you go to Abu Dhabi and you go to these amazing places and you see like this new architecture and it's absolutely stunning. But then I was like, you know what? Like, I want to start seeing the, the other side. Like, you go to like Detroit and Gary, Indiana, and you just see like these buildings that are in ruins or completely gutted. And I came up with this idea. I'm like, you know what? Like, these abandoned places, I mean, everything that's still standing are the bones of the buildings. Like they've been completely gutted. And I'm like, what better way to tie the traveling, the music, and the project together than by filming, one, all around the world, but also going to abandoned places around the world, things that used to exist that don't anymore. They're just like remnants.
Sure.
And that's kind of who I was as an artist. So I started going to buildings and being like, let's do this. Let's do an abandoned theme park. Let's go to an abandoned church, abandoned funeral home. That was really crazy. And what I really want fans to know is this is not like a one song thing where it's one song and I'm disappearing for 6 months. I mean, I have worked tirelessly for 3 years. I have an album finished, a 13-song album. I have an acoustic album that's coming out. I have videos for not only every song I release on the regular album, but I also have acoustic videos. I mean, I've literally created a universe, and I hope that a few people want to join me along and come along for the ride.
Yeah, I think. Are you inspired much by? Do you like Seth Lawless's stuff? He's an amazing photographer. He's pretty internationally known now as it's SEPH and then Lawless, LAWLESS, and you can find him on Instagram at that name. And he's a photographer that goes around and shoots abandoned buildings. And he's done a bunch. Yeah, so I think you're going to love his stuff. Absolutely love his stuff. You and he should work together, actually.
The thing about abandoned buildings is like, I do not have, like, I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up with money. I'm completely paying for the entire project on my own dime. So it's like, I had to get creative. So like the abandoned theme park in Japan, I mean, it was the craziest thing ever. I mean, we stayed, we took a bullet train, for the 6 Feet Under music video from Tokyo to Osaka and then Osaka to Nara. And Nara actually is the old capital of Japan. And we had to be very careful. I mean, I felt like I was, planning and plotting to like rob a bank, because I had to find, you can't hail a cab and ask the cab to go to this theme park because everyone knows it's abandoned. You know, Japan is such like a respectful country that they would probably alert the authorities that something weird is going on. So we had to stay 2.5 miles away from the theme park, which also, by the way, had security guards. So at 2:30 in the morning, we woke up and we walked 2.5 miles with equipment and a flashlight down the highway to get to the theme park. And we had to break in the barbed wire chain link fence. It's completely broken, like highly, highly illegal. And then we had to shoot the entire video whispering because there were guards, and we would see guards and we would have to go hide. So I remember one time we saw this guard and we flipped out and we just like full on sprinted, booked it, and hid in a haunted house. Okay, so imagine how scary a haunted house already is, and then imagine
This is an episode of Scooby-Doo. This is what this is.
Yes.
So.
The haunted house was abandoned and had been rotting for 20 years, and we're hiding in it, and there's like devil heads that are like half broken and like, you know, cracked mirrors and like witches, and it's pitch black, and we're like hiding from a security guard, like our hearts are racing. And then like we'd peek out, we'd be like, all right, let's go shoot. We'd like whisper. So we'd run out, we'd shoot a scene, and then we'd go hide again. I mean, it was terrifying. It was like one of the most adrenaline inducing things I've ever done in my life. And luckily, I think the video, I mean, it's just such a unique location. And all these videos I see nowadays are like, people are in front of like super fancy cars, or there's like red Solo cups at a pool party. And like, I just wanted to be the villain to that. I wanted to, you know, I don't want to make a video that's shiny. I want to make a video that's gritty, that's real, in like larger than life locations. So to me, it's like, that's been the most important thing. We actually just got permission to shoot, in a prison that was used in my favorite movie, Shawshank Redemption. So I'm pumped, man. I mean, I'm just so excited.
Cool.
I'm so excited about this whole project. Yeah, I've been working so hard on it. As you know, I mean, we've talked about this. I've seen you, about every year? We always get lunch or coffee every now and then. And I'm like, man, I'm still building it. I'm still writing, still trying to figure out what I want to sound like. And,
well, yeah, you were playing me music in your truck probably 5 years ago.
You want to know something funny? I remember you said that, was it, you go, yeah, you know what? One of these songs has a Family Force 5 vibe. Remember that?
Yeah.
Do you know what song that was?
No.
That was Victorious by Panic at the Disco.
Victoria, right, exactly. Right, yes.
So that was the guitar part. That was going to be the opening song on the next Cab album. And or my new project or whatever it was. And, you know, luckily, you know, I think Brendan and them heard it and, you know, obviously did their own thing and lyrics and, you know, wrote to it. And yeah, it was just like that was the most full circle moment of my entire life because they signed me to my first record deal, you know, and I was such a fan of them. So that was just like the craziest thing ever.
Did you guys go to the same high school?
We didn't go to the same high school, but we, you know, Vegas is a small town. So.
Yeah. I thought he was from Henderson, isn't he? Or no, he's not from Henderson?
I think one of the guys is from Henderson, but they grew up in Summerlin where Alex Marshall, who's in the Cab, grew up.
Okay. All right. So actually, you know, from all those songs over the past number of years now that you've been playing for me and you've been playing for others, how many of those songs actually made it into this incarnation of the band?
Maybe 2 songs, Heart and Bones. I mean,
Really?
I am, when I believe in a song or a lyric, I will rewrite it a million times. There's a song called Coffins on the new album, and it's probably my favorite song. And I wrote about 8 versions. I had upbeat versions, I had chord changes, I had completely different choruses. All I had is the one line in the chorus. I had the lyric, and I knew that lyric was special and it meant a lot to me. And so I have friends who have heard like 8 versions of the same song, and every time they hear it, it's like, whoa, you use that lyric again. And I'm like, I'm gonna get it right. I know it. So it was just me kind of chipping away and experimenting, and the hardest part for me isn't the lyrics. The lyrics come pretty, easy to me, and the melodies come fairly easy to me. But it was the soundscape. It was like, what is Bones going to sound like? Is it going to be gritty? Is it going to be clean? Like how do we put the music in there to kind of complete the whole thing? You know what I mean? Like, how do we take the lyrics and match it and marry it with the sound? And that was the part that took years. I mean, I wanted to get it right. And the new album sounds like if Justin Timberlake decided he wanted to join Rage Against the Machine or something. I mean, it's like got a little bit of, a lot of Trent Reznor influence. You can hear, the harmonies that were inspired by NSYNC and Boyz II Men. But then it's like probably the biggest influence on the album for me was Tom Morello. My favorite guitar player ever. And I just loved how Tom Morello in Rage always is playing in the pocket. He's always grooving like an R&B. He might as well be playing like an R&B bass line, on all his guitar parts. So that was very, very influential to me. So yeah, I finally just got the sound right, and that was part of the reason it took so long. Is I just wanted it to be exactly what I wanted, no compromise. Because when you're a band, for better or for worse, you have other people being like, you know what, like, we should do things this way, or, oh, let's do things this way. And you have a label being like, well, we think that you should do things this way. And then your manager is kind of like, yeah, well, we should meet in the middle with the label. And nothing is ever 100% artist to listener. It's like it's like very rare that happens. So for me, it was like, I'm making this album for me. I'm doing the exact album that I want to make, that I know fans and people that, care about my point of view are going to love. And I'm not going to let anyone tell me what it's going to sound like or what it is. And so this album is 100% unapologetically me. And for me, it's like, if my music career stopped, next year, I would be so happy that at least in my life, I did one album exactly the way I wanted to do. That's been the most rewarding part of this whole process, is like, I am so proud, and there's not a thing on the album I would change.
In your videos, and actually most of your photographs for a while now, you've had the skull mask on. Correct?
Yep.
And so is that going to be permanent? Is that the new beanie, I guess?
So I'm definitely not, I don't think on stage I'll be wearing a mask or anything like that, but it's kind of like a persona or a character in a lot of the videos and a lot of the songs. Kind of like the villainous side of my thoughts and of my whole project. So it's kind of pulls everything together. This character, this kind of like vagabond, nomadic, dark character. So yeah, the mask is a very big part of Bones and the image, but obviously Bones is also Alexander DeLeon. So on stage, I don't think it'll probably be hard to sing through one of those masks.
Wow, this has been awesome. Just because I do think when I was in high school, I had a history teacher, and he used to get into arguments all the time with the guidance counselor, because the guidance counselor downstairs, when kids would go up to the guidance counselor and say, well, I got to start doing my college planning. And the guidance counselor would say, oh, you just go from here, your senior class, and drive down the street to Kent State University, which is about 30 minutes south, and just start college and do that. And my history teacher used to pull students aside and say, you know what, don't do that, because once you get out of here, your first year after high school, you're going to freak out. You're going to be so full of energy. And say, if anything, if you can, take some money and either go travel the country or go travel the world and figure yourself out first, and then go to college. Because you kind of need to see the world in order to kind of find yourself, right?
Yeah, you got to figure out your place in the world.
So if there's one place, anybody listening to this, and they've got enough money still left on their credit card balance, or they've got some, they've been storing some money up, and they're like, well, someday I'm going to go visit here. I'm going to go there. I'm going to go. If there was one place you could direct people to go to, that you say, look, like this place will at least maybe help you, kind of allow you to kind of look inside yourself, where would it be on this planet?
It would be Iceland, because Iceland is one of the few places in the world where you can get, a volcano, and then 20 minutes later you had a waterfall, 20 minutes later you had a beach, 20 minutes later you had a glacier. I mean, it has everything. Also, what I love about Iceland is there aren't really like fancy hotels around the country. I mean, there's the one city, Reykjavik, but the best part about Iceland is you buy a camper van, you sleep in the back on a mattress, your vehicle is your hotel, and you just drive, and everything in the country is public. So you don't have to find campsites to park. You can literally find the most beautiful waterfall you've ever seen, and you can just pull your car up right underneath it, and just that's where you're sleeping. And they do have great airline deals going up there, so it's fairly inexpensive to get there. It's pricey, somewhat when you're there. But my other advice would be, if you go to Iceland, go in middle September, because it's pretty much the same weather as summer, but every single price on everything goes down 50% the second week of September. But I think if I could give people advice, I always try to encourage my friends and family members to travel. But the one piece of advice, and what stops people, is people always assume it's expensive. People, I have friends who are like, man, how the hell do you afford to go to all these places? And I'm like, if you can figure it out. I mean, if you can be flexible with dates and all of that, I mean, to this day, I'll still stay in hostels, not only because it's cheap, but like sometimes I stay just because it's fun. I like meeting people. Sometimes I'll stay in a Four Seasons hotel. In Egypt, Four Seasons hotel is like $70 because the economy is struggling. So people assume that going to see the pyramids would be very expensive, and it actually is not. I think people price themselves out before even researching. And I think that, if you want to travel, if it's a priority, you can definitely make it happen, and you can definitely afford it. It's just about how bad do you want it, and how much research do you want to do, because there are deals and ways everywhere. You definitely.
I just realized that you probably are one of the best travel agents that I can possibly find. So,
dude, if you or anyone, I mean, it's funny because I get DMs about a lot of weird stuff, and the DMs I always answer are the ones that ask for travel advice. Like someone's like, hey, I'm going, to Florence, Italy for a week. Where should I go? And I'll spend like 30 minutes of my day making them like a list. And people are always surprised that of how much thought I put into the response. But it's like that. I don't know. I'm super passionate about it. So if anyone wants travel tips, come to me. I'm your guy. I won't charge you.
Oh, geez. Well, at least you have a backup career.
Exactly.
So I'm telling you, there's something here. There's a podcast in that, Alex. I think you should consider it.
Yeah. Definitely.
Travels with Alex. That's what I'd say. Well, make it a call-in show. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Oh, well, thank you, brother. I really, really appreciate your time
today. Thank you, man.
Today.
It's always great to hear from you.
Same here. And please stay in touch, and good luck with everything.
Thank you, sir. Talk to you soon.